Okay, homemade thumb wheel. You can see this works really well, and it wasn't that difficult to make. So, but my first attempt, you can see here, I was off center with what would have been my cut, and I'll show you a better way to do it. So this is just a piece of scrap 1/2 inch Baltic birch, and I'm going to take an 1.5 inch hole saw, which will give you a 1 3/8 inside diameter. Cut a couple of pieces like that, and then show you how I mortised out for the nut that goes in there. So the one thing that you want to do when you're doing this though is you want to stop short of going all the way through, change bits and drill out your 3/8 diameter hole, and then finish the cut with the hole saw. So I'll show you how I'm going to do that. Okay, so once you've established that outside rim, this will go back and start cutting on that same spot, even without the pilot bit here. So I'm going to enlarge that hole now. And I'll go back and finish up that cut. There it is. Then once I get, well, I'll show you how I do that. I'm going to cut another one, and then I'll come back and show you how to clean this up a little bit more. So just get yourself a 3/8 bolt that's fully threaded, a couple of washers and a nut. Give it a, half tightness, half a turn with a wrench. Then just chuck it up in your drill press again, and you don't even have to use your chuck key. Just snug it up. That's all you need to do. Now you can either hit it with a file or a sanding block, either one. I'm going to use a file. Take the rough edges off here. That's much better. So we'll do the same thing to the other one here. Then put the nut back on. You could do it either way, with the head of the bolt or with the nut. I'm going to choose to use the nut. Again, snug it up. And now I'm going to take it over to the bench and mark this out for the mortise. Okay, so you can see I've got this dropped into one of my holes of my bench here. And I put a fender washer on the back side, which gave it more support all the way around. And also, it all sits on top of the hole now instead of wanting to be partially in and some of it partially out. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to take my 3/8 chisel, and it's almost perfectly the perfect size. It's just a little bit big for the outside hex here, but line it up as best you can, straight up and down. And just make your marks all the way around. Now I'm going to take this apart, switch to my smaller chisel. And just take that material out of there. So you can see how it just kind of starts to want to fall away. Those plies start to peel apart. And you just keep going like you do with any mortise. Alright, so I put the bolt on the nut and pulled it in. But I can see that I'm a little high on this side right here. This is nice and flush, but it kind of rides up over here. So I'm going to make a mark here and make sure I take a little bit more off of this side. Okay, got them both done. This one here I had a little blowout when I was chopping the mortise, but luckily I was able to find this piece. So I'll just slip that in there with a little glue. And then give it a little light sand after I get everything done here. And hopefully you won't be able to see that at all. So that's it. I gotta make up some wood weld, put them both in place. Now just take your 2 wrenches. Compress all that in there. There you go. Just give that a little time to cook, and then we'll give it a light sanding. I'll do the other one, we'll come back. Now you're going to want to put some of this stuff. I've got some left over from a project, but it's this self-adhesive tread material, non-slip tread. I don't know what they call it. This just says it prevents slips and falls. I can't tell you what brand it is. I've had it so long. But you'll see it. You can get it at your big box store. Cut a piece that's the right length. Or for me, what I would prefer would be, I've got these cut at the exact length I need, but cut it a little long and then just chop down through both of them. Remove the waste from both sides and then stick it back down. So I'll put this one on here. And this stuff, when you put it down, it stays. Oh, incidentally, I did put this back on my drill press. I put the bolt back in. Ran a tap through it to remove all the junk. And then put a light sand on this so it's got a little nicer surface to stick to. And there you go. Well, the other thing is, I lied to you when I said I was making an 1 3/8 thumb wheel. It's 1 1/4. So after you get this stuff on there, it ends up being, well, almost 1 3/8. 1.345. So we're 30 thousandths short of 375, but the actual dimensions of this wooden part is just under 1 1/4, or just over 1 1/4, sorry. So, okay, you can see these work just as well as the others. A little bit more backlash, you can see that, probably about a half a turn. Let's see. Yeah, about a half a turn. So if I were doing this again, I'd make this, make these two pieces tighter together to take up that space. But I made that space for these. So anyway, but you can overcome that anyway. All you need to do is bring this one up, bring this one back, and now you can lock it in place and not lose that backlash, I guess. So yeah, either direction it moves just as smoothly as with the aluminum. But if you like nice, this is really nice. So we'll see what happens with the rest of this down the road. But if you're interested in just doing it all in your own shop, all you would need would be to buy the 3/8 threaded rod and a couple of mag switches, and the rest is standard hardware.